Hi, this is Sung again, and I'm with Yungi Park, and this is the very last session. And now we are going to try the oneM2M dashboard. So in this session, we are going to see what happens in the oneM2M platform. We have been looking at the resources with the resource browser before, but in this session, as a data dashboard, we are going to see some graphs or kind of other fancy stuffs, just like the other IoT dashboards. So here's the outline. So this is, I think, almost similar to the other session. You can get the dashboard source code from the GitHub link, as you can see. And this is not our offering, but this has been publicly available a long time ago. So we are using the other open source implementation of the dashboard. So here's the dashboard. So on your right hand side, you can see the screenshot, and this is the image from the GitHub from the freeboard. So this is the typical usage, or you can kind of configure your dashboard just like this. So you can see some kind of sparklines or gauges and number and even the CCTV. And we don't have any CCTV or stakeout image in the widget, but that's the kind of features from the freeboard, which is the open source. And the reason that we chose this one for our dashboard session is this is really easy, and you can configure your data sources, or you can manipulate a little bit your data with JavaScript, since we are using JavaScript and Node.js for all the sessions for a 2-day tutorial, so it will be kind of still familiar to you. And the interworking with oneM2M platform, in our case Mobius, is really easy. So with the JSON and simple kind of retrieval API, this dashboard can get data periodically. So like every second it can get data and represent on different widgets like the sparkline. So those are the situational assumptions that we are going to use this open source dashboard. So here's the scenario. Firstly, we are going to generate the data, and you can do that by your own software, or you can do it with Postman. But as we already played with the device simulator yesterday, we're going to use that one for the dashboard. So the simulator kind of pushes all the data like every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds, and you will see what's going on because the simulator generates random data like 10 to 20, 20 to 11, and so on. And secondly, connect the freeboard to the oneM2M platform, and of course, in this case, the freeboard works as oneM2M application, as we learned before. It can be called as AE. So there will be the oneM2M API calls from the freeboard to the oneM2M platform. So we will configure it to the freeboard. Then there will be the data returned to the freeboard from the oneM2M platform, and you will see what's going on. And depending on your choice, as you prefer, you will choose different widgets that freeboard provides. So again, there was the link in the prerequisite slide, and you can get the source code either as C file or with the git clone. And you're going to install all the dependent modules with npm install. And there's one more tool which is grunt, and with that grunt tool, you can run the dashboard, and we're going to show you right now. So firstly, we are going to install all the dependent modules with npm install. And then as Freeboard says, we're going to install grunt globally. And then finally we run grunt. When you do that, now you can open your dashboard because it has been generated the HTML file. So you can see the index.html in the same folder, and you can just open it. Then here's the freeboard on your local machine. And the next is we should create the data sources because in each widget, basically we show different data, and before we do that, we need to define or declare the data sources. Where are the data coming from? And that's where we use oneM2M APIs somehow in this configuration. And when you hit add button on top in the data sources menu, then you will see the menu, the screen like this. There are different ones, but we will choose JSON because basically it is retrieving JSON data from the web with the URL. And with the oneM2M HTTP binding specification, we can say that there is the server address in HTTP, and then the resource identifiers starting from Mobius. So this is the JSON data endpoint for the freeboard, but still this is oneM2M compatible. And of course, the method is get because we are going to retrieve the data. And if we go back to the URL, there is the temperature sensor, and temperature sensor creates the data by default by the simulator. And to get the latest temperature measuring or measurement of this temperature one, we should put the postfix, which is /LA. LA means again latest. So when we send the get request, which is the retrieve operation in oneM2M, to this temperature one data container, then we will get the latest content instance of that. And then we are going to do something to parse the data as we are interested and put it on the widget. And of course, there are mandatory headers or the parameters from the oneM2M, like the request identifier and origin, which is the from parameter. And of course, we're going to get the response in JSON. So those are the settings. And let's do that together. Just for the sake of time, we have put all the data as you can find from the presentation. So the URL, and as we highlighted out, please don't put localhost or 127.0.0.1, but get your IP address. It doesn't have to be the public IP. It can be like private IP like this that we get from our wireless router. And yeah, the other kind of settings. And we're going to kind of save it. And when it is kind of successfully get data from the platform, then you will see some timestamp. And as you see, the timestamp is kind of getting updated since we have put the refresh cycle as 2 seconds. And the next is we are going to add or put some widgets. And to have something on the widget, we should add pane first, and then we're going to choose the widget type. Yeah. And when you add widget, we will kind of select the data source, and then the data sources are already defined, and we just added one data source. And we're going to let you know how to get the interested data, because what we get from the oneM2M platform with the retrieval request is a complex JSON object, and that means we are going to kind of parse a interested data in that data object, and Freeboard really helps you, and we will just show you how it works. So what has been done right now is Freeboard just kind of parses all the objects or the response object, and when you just put the bracket, so when we select a data source, there will be the automatically kind of a list shown on the screen, and we just added one data source, which is temp. And when you click on it, then there will be the parsing from the freeboard. So there is just one kind of key in the object, which is m2m:cin, which stands for content instance. And again, there is another kind of parsing from the freeboard, which consists of all the content instance object like PI, parent ID, and resource ID, state tag, resource name, and so on and so on. And we're going to use the con, which is content. And when you hit content, then after that you are going to kind of use that one. And if content is consist with the other object by itself, then you can just choose the kind of nested key names, which is kind of provided by Freeboard automatically. So now the current value, temperature value by the simulator is 19. So the Freeboard is successfully getting data in every 2 seconds. And just like that, we can add the other sensor data in different widgets. For example, we can add one kind of sparkline. when data is kind of generated by the simulator, then you will see that coming. So 18, and then 21. So yeah, this is the sparkline graphs that you can put onto your kind of freeboard. Now let's add the other type of the widget, which is the gauge. So the procedure is the same. So as a type, we choose gauge, and then of course we should add the or assign the data source, and that means you should can add the other data source for the luminosity from the device simulator before, and you can kind of choose it because if you have kind of 10 different data sources already added in the previous kind of procedure, then you will see those 10 in the list, and we will show you right now. So in the URL, we just configure the Lumi named container named Lumi, and we will get all the latest content instance with LA, which stands for latest virtual resource. And we are adding new headers for the request identifier and the form parameter, which is XM2M origin. And we have saved it, and we will add a new pane for the gauge widget. We need con, and whenever data gets updated from the simulator, you will see the change on the gauge, and the gauge widget from freeboard highlights the number or measurement with different colors. So currently it is 369 instead 67, and if it goes kind of near 500, then it will be red. And the next is the indicator light, and basically this is the kind of simple signboard. So if something is qualifying your condition that you are interested, then there will be the color, and if not, then there will be the different color. So basically this is the like street signal or street light. And in this example, so we are parsing the content instance of the lamp, and in the con, which stands for content, if the value itself is 1, then there will be the light turn on, and in the other case, you know, uh, the light is off or different color. So if you are using kind of different payload for your own application, then you can modify this part to get the right data or right condition to show on the indicator. So let's see what it is. Now let's add the other type of widgets, and firstly let's add a gauge. So you will choose the type as gauge, and we should add the other kind of data source, and we will do that. And we are going to use the luminosity data source, and just like the other one, uh, we will get the content instance resource, and the content instance has the kind of object key as m2m color GIN, and among the other properties attributes of this content instance, we will use content property attribute, which has a short name as con. And later we are going to use the indicator. Indicator widget shows two different colors. If something is true for your condition, then you will see the yellow color on the indicator. And if the condition becomes false, then you will see the black indicator light. So to do that, we will choose the type as indicator light. And just like the other one, we were using automatic parsing for the data source that we defined before, but in this case we use the JavaScript editor, and we are going to kind of define the data, and then we are going to put a really simple JavaScript if statement like this. And let's see then how to configure those gauge widget and the indicator light widget. And firstly, we're going to add the other virtual sensor, which is the luminosity sensor, and then the light bulb as the actuator. We just added the luminosity sensor and the light bulb as an actuator. And from day one, as a mini project, we have implemented a small home automation service with the notification application. And in this session right now, we need that application again. And as we added the light bulb as light as a container name, so you should kind of put that name in this patch setting. That means depending on the luminosity sensor data by the simulator as a random data, the lamp goes on, turns on or off. Now we open the Now we are going to run the notification application, and before you do that, make sure to kind of install all the modules like npm install, and we just run the application, and it gets notifications from the luminosity sensor measuring, and depending on the value that we get and depending on the threshold, then gets turned on and off. And that's the setup, and now we are going to add the widget for that. So this is a data source setting for the luminosity sensor measurement. Now we have to add the other data source for the light bulb, as you can see from the left hand side. So the home automation application gets notification from the luminosity sensor measurement, and conditionally it actuates the light bulb. In the meantime, you can see that happening on the left. Light is still off because the luminosity, now it has been kind of turned on because the luminosity goes down until like 2224. And what you're doing here is to add those two data sources because you want to see that on the dashboard. So now we are going to add new widgets. Firstly, we have to add the pane and then choose the widget type. For the luminosity, we will just show what it is. So we have added the data source. So you can see the same data but on the dashboard. And now we are going to add the light indicator. And as I explained before, so in this case we are going to compose a bit of kind of JavaScript source code. M2M colon CIN and then CON, and we are going to add a if statement. So if the value of the latest content instance of the light bulb becomes 1, and please note that that payload is provided by the home automation application that we have just run. And so if you provide the other kind of payload like on or true or whatever you want, then you should kind of reflect that payload in this source code. So we have chosen 1 or 0. So that's the small script file, script code that we're going to use on the widget. So if it is on, then we will show the text like light on, or on the other hand, we're going to say light off. So as we can see from the simulator, let's add the other widget, which is the light indicator. Type is the indicator light, and unlike the other widgets, we're going to have some simple JavaScript code to define some condition is kind of light on or the other condition is light off as the indicator. So this is the kind of simple source code. So we kind of declare a new kind of variable named data, and among data sources, we use lamp that we lastly added in the data sources setting. And just like the other one, we will parse into m2m CIN and then con. And there will be the light value, light bulb value, and from the home automation application, which is the naughty application.js that is running background. From that application, we used two different payloads. One is string 1 and the other one is string 0. So if we get 1 from the content instance retriever of this light bulb, or lamp, then we will return 1. Then you will see the yellow light on the widget, and in the other case, if the condition is 0, the value is 0, then you will return 0. That means you will see the black light or light off status on the widget. If it is on, then we will put the other kind of label on the screen like on and off. As you can see from the left hand side, from the device simulator, it is like off because luminosity is bright enough, over 300, 350. So it is 0 and like off. Color is black. And let's wait a bit. Our simulator pushes data in every 5 seconds. Still is really kind of bright. Yeah, so the luminosity gets below 300. Now the light was turned on. Yeah, turned on again. Yeah, we get the notification and the retrieval response. Yeah, so this is the kind of simple dashboard to see depending on your condition. So you can kind of utilize that widget on your own criteria. So this is the last slide, and so you can configure your own dashboard with the device simulator like this. So there are different sensors which pushes like temperature, luminosity, humidity, and then you can kind of represent those kind of data with the gauge or the text or the kind of light indicator, just like we kind of demonstrated. And imagine that you're having a kind of bigger testbed like 100 or more than 200 kind of, parking sensors, and if you want to kind of check the status, if it is kind of healthy or if it is kind of turned off, something, you can kind of compose your simple JavaScript code for your kind of criteria. So if 3 different conditions are met, then you will say, okay, the sensor is kind of malfunctioning. So the light indicator should be kind of black, and if any of the condition like the creation time of the latest uh, parking sensor measurement or the reporting, then in your kind of simple script code, you should return 1 to turn on the light indicator as yellow like this. So those could be the really simple scenarios to use dashboard, which is the Freeboard, the open source one, which works perfectly fine with the oneM2M platform. And in this case, Freeboard itself does not kind of support like the notification kind of handling server, but as we kind of said, if we kind of configure the interval like 2 seconds or 1 second, then it's almost the real time for us. So we don't need any kind of separate or explicit oneM2M notification handling server, but we can just rely on resource retrieval API to have this kind of fancy or simple dashboard. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I forgot to kind of show you our setup, and you will see 3 different kind of sparklines, 1 text, 2 kind of text pane widgets, and gauges and length on and off kind of indicator. So I hope you can do the same thing just like us. Thank you.